What's up, everybody? This is Talkative Carl back again for another spoiler review for part of the spoiler reviews for the Star Wars franchise. And I just wrapped up season one of The Bad Batch. And full disclosure, when I heard about the Bad Batch were being announced a year prior to its release on Disney Plus, and I was like, do we need it? It's like, you know, they were cool and all, but it's like, because, like I said about the Book of Boba Fett, the quality can be good, but it's just like not everything. It just like with Cara Dune and like Mandalorian when she was initially was gonna get like a show of her own, and it's like just because, in my opinion, just because you got a hit show and there's like a great character in that show besides like the main lead or the few main leads, and it's like it's okay to have them just as the supporting role. It's just like how I Met Your Mother or something like that, and like you got these uh the main leads of the show, but then you decide, oh, one of Barney's best friends that became like a fan favorite, and then all of a sudden, hey, let's make a spin-off about that guy just because he was famous among, I mean, he got popular, and it's like we don't necessarily need it all the time. You can kind of drown us in like so much stuff that whether it's good or bad, it's too much. And it's like the Bad Batch is all well and good. I think we got enough, stuff dealing with clones, and you just kind of feel like you had to wrap up the Clone Wars, but you don't want to, drop the whole clone motif. And it's like, okay, we got the Bad Batch as backup. They can be our new Clone Wars, and it's like you just kind of let it be. Now that being said, the show, yeah, it's good, and I like the new character Omega, and I love the actress who voices Omega because she's from New Zealand, and it's like every time she talks, I just want to freaking listen to anything she says, and it's like I love the way she said like Omega. It's just like because just the New Zealand accent, and it's like this only. It felt like this is the only way for me to say the word Omega is doing it like in a New Zealand accent, like Omega. Mm. Hello, Tick. Hello, Tick. It's like, oh God. I don't know. Is this the way the E's are pronounced? Maybe I don't know. But yeah, this picks up after, or at least kind of after, and kind of side by side with the end of the Clone Wars, and like simultaneously with Revenge of the Sith, where Order 66 is issued, and because the Bad Batch are one of the few, or I should say the handful of clones that either are defective or has some kind of alteration like tech, because he's kind of like half cyborg, so it's kind of like it kind of negates any kind of brainwashing. Kind of reminds me of Cyborg from Teen Titans, to where like I forgot what the supervillain was, but they trying to mind control him, but it doesn't work because half of his biology is cybernetic, and it doesn't work. Brainwashing doesn't work on him. But like you got like Hunter, who's a skilled, his like, I think it's not even just their like defective, it's just like their biology got messed with a little bit, just try to make enhanced clones, you know almost not like superhero level, but like like above average clone capabilities. And you got like Hunter, who is an expert tracker, kind of like something with like the electromagnetic waves in around a planet to where he can easily use that to track somebody down. And you got Wrecker, who's this big bruiser. He's not like an idiot, but he's definitely you gotta speak in simple terms with him half the time. You got Crosshairs, who's an expert marksman. Of course, you got Tech, who's a half cyborg, and then no, not Tech. Echo. This is what I meant by being half cyborg earlier. You got Tech, who's like the technical engineer. Am I forgetting anybody? I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. And of course, the other clones that we meet that didn't get brainwashed is Cut, that we seen in one of the seasons of Clone Wars, who we get to see again, who has like a family and everything like that, who's like a deserter. I can't recall how. I think he got hurt in the line of duty, and I guess that kind of affected his inhibitor chip. Then because of that, kind of led him to like, I can't do this anymore, so I gotta go AWOL, because essentially I can't fight this kind of war. So then get Rex, but his inhibitor chip worked, but because of Ahsoka, as we saw in the final episode of Clone Wars, she had it removed. And I'm pretty sure there's like a few others. So anybody who's like been like, DNA was tampered with in some form, shape or form, or just defective, they're the only ones who pretty much avoided the inhibitor chip brainwashing. So you get to meet a young Kanan Jarrus here, who's just a young Padawan at this point, and he, ran to the Bad Batch as backup with his, Jedi Master and her squad of clones, who were, this is around the time, running parallel with like downfall of Dooku and like, Mace Windu's ending, and like, rise of Vader and everything like that. So, as like all these Jedis being simultaneously wiped out, she gets taken down, and Kanan is just, at this point it's Caleb, but he later changes to Kanan, and he, runs away, avoiding, thinking like, the Bad Batch is gonna like, turn on him too, and Crosshair's inhibitor is slightly still working. So he's is trying to like follow orders, and that's like one of the running quotes. That became like at least a running quote as part of the Star Wars canon. It's like, good soldiers follow orders. We have to follow orders. And you got like a weird it's funny about to make a joke about Deadpool movie, because Gina Carano, who played Cara Dune, who was in the Deadpool movie, always had like a toothpick in her mouth, or it was like a match technically, but she always, it's either a match or a toothpick in her mouth. And Deadpool made a joke about like, oral fixation. And it's ironic because she was in a Star Wars thing, and now you got Crosshairs, who has a toothpick in his mouth almost every time you see him, and it's like, wow, oral fixation. I just thought it was funny to me, but Crosses and Hunter chase after Caleb, because none of them know what the hell's going on. They're not like programmed like that, so Hunter is trying to like calm Kanan down, and it's like, look, I'm not one of them. You can relax. He's putting his weapon down and everything like that, and showing his face like, look, I'm with you. Calm down. I'm trying to figure this out, And then as like Crosshairs is like coming, Caleb decided to like jump this canyon on the other side, and he just runs away, and Hunter just says like he fell. Well, of course, Crosshairs didn't take long for Crosshairs to figure out like, yeah, he was bullshitting. But as they went back to Kamino, they find out about like the rise of the Empire and fall of the Republic, and Palpatine crowned himself Emperor, and like you know all this stuff is going down, and they none of the squad is like either not with it, or it seems like it's something's fishy. And you had Tarkin, who little by little he's considering like just disbanding, because they disbanded the Jedi. Well, assassinated the Jedi, most of them. Disbanded the Republic, and they considered disbanding the clone what you call it, like the process, the of a clone factory, just put it in this like Kamino. And like the Kaminoans have been like, at least the prime minister has been like and there is a very old Kaminoan in Clone Wars that you see, in just all about profit with her, and it's like more war means more commission of clones, which means more money for us. And it's like now it's like we can just hire regular people. We're like the sole ruling end all be all. So there's not gonna be any war, because it's only gonna be us. So we don't need like constant supply of troops, because we're gonna have like just free willing people to like with all this propaganda, is like, come join the Republic, the Empire. You get like respect and all this other stuff. We give you food, shelter, and you get respect and all this stuff. And it's like it takes a moment for most of the galaxy to see, because this is very early stages here. Just after it's like a day or two, and people are just like buying into this crap, and it takes a while. It takes some years, because once eventually I want to go into like Solo movie, and then like Rogue One, and some years has passed since the event, so we're gonna be in the thick of it with the Empire for a while, the Empire's reign, and then people will eventually catch wise and rise of the rebellion and everything like that. Just say like, no, these people are just like a fascist dictatorship, pretty much. So Tarkin, ordered the Bad Batch to go to I've forgotten this planet, but this planet where we see Saw Gerrera again, and they say, you gotta wipe out these insurgents. They go there and they see these aren't insurgents. This is like a bunch of people with their kids, and because Saw Gerrera and his group refused to bow to the Empire, they consider them traitors and they should be eliminated, flat out right. And I'm shocked, like how many people just be on board with this. And of course, the Bad Batch didn't go through with it, and you see like Hunter and Crosshairs button heads, now realizing that, because it takes them a minute to realize about the inhibitor chips, but of course they meet up with Omega and everything like that, because she's like you later find out she's just like Boba Fett, as far as like built to be like a very independent clone with like the skills of Jango Fett and everything like that. It's funny, like by the time we get to the Book of Boba Fett, we haven't not once seen Omega yet, because she should be around the same age, maybe like a year or two younger than Boba Fett, uh, and we haven't seen her in like a live action form, and it'd be curious to see like what a live action adult Omega look like. Uh, so they're deemed as treasonous, and so they got they enhanced the inhibitor mechanism in Crosshair's brain. So now Crosshair's leading charge and like trying to take down his former squad. They take Omega and the Bad Batch escape. Now, while they're trying to avoid the Empire, trying to find like a spot just to lay low, but along the way they either being chased down by a Crosshair or trying to earn like and avoiding bounty hunters, and at the same time trying to earn money through this former Jedi informant named Sid, who was probably the one character I really did not care for, because it seems because she's playing off like and she's voiced by Rhea Perlman. She's playing off as like not like scummy, but just like in it for herself, kind of stick, and like it's hard to describe. It's like like you not like Amanda Water, but Amanda Waller, but damn near like it was like a few steps away from Amanda Waller kind of attitude, where it's like you'll know when I let you know, or I was like you could trust me. It's just like just feel like shithead kind of attitude. And it's one redeeming moment she has with Omega after like she getting chastised by her regulars when she's kind of like snapping at Omega, and when she's like worried about the Bad Batch, who she considers her brothers, because technically they are her brothers, and so they kind of like form a bond after she because this is Jango Fett kind of DNA. She's very adept at strategy and skill set with like weapons and stuff like that, and she is beating other patrons at this that little board game that you always see in Star Wars constantly, that Chewie plays with a couple of people. What was that game called? Jarek. It's a holographic chest or hollow chest. So she got so good, and she like took bets, and because of that, she ended up paying off the Bad Batch deck to Sid, because they kind of botched a job prior or something like that. And then you get to see like they took a job trying to find this Rancor, who turns out to be the Rancor that, because that's something that Jabba wanted. She got she took a job for Jabba the Hutt, who was looking for his Rancor, and got taken by some slavers. And it's just like still like a big Rancor, but not as big as you see in the original series, that eventually Luke will kill. And this is like an adorable little thing that is like listening to Omega, and she's riding and everything. It's all cute and everything, knowing full well he's gonna die by like by a Jedi years later. So it's fun to know like where Jabba got his little Rancor. It's a nice little thing here. You get to see like Fennec Shand makes an introduction in here, and like she her she's getting hired by one of the Kaminoans working under the Prime Minister, who he hired a bounty hunter, Cad Bane, to retrieve Omega so they can get the DNA and like kill her in the process, in order to like, because he wants to solidify his standing in this new empire trying to make sure that avoid any kind of trying to make sure he what's the word secure his favor among in the empire in some shape or form, uh just to feel like they need us kind of thing. Need to secure that. But the Kaminoan working under him, Nala Se, she hired Fennec Shan to retrieve Omega, but later when the Bad Batch came in and rescued her, and she's like, I'll send you credits as long as she's not in in our custody and she's like far away and safe, like it doesn't really matter to me. But in the end, like the prime minister coming on was killed off, and the Empire still needed a Kaminoan scientist, and like Nala Se was like just taken, and who knows what they gonna have her do in whenever season 2 come out. What else? Oh, and then you get this little short arc where you meet Rex, who had like I mentioned in the last season of Clone Wars, that you see the Martinez sisters, and you see them again, and like they help the Bad Batch on a particular mission, trying to get some codes, and they end up you later find out they're working under Rex, who still want to they're trying to figure out like sowing the seeds of the rebellion here, and Rex later on contacts the Bad Batch and let them know about the inhibitor chips, and you gotta take those things out, because whatever happened to like Crosshair is probably going to end up happening to you if something occurs, like a bump on the head or anything of the sort. You never know. So you gotta take those things out now while you still got your faculties. So it goes to this junk planet where you got this former like this abandoned like cruiser, where it has like the technology needed to remove those chips. Now in the meantime, you see like a good couple of episodes prior where like Wrecker ended up bumping his head, and like you think it's like a regular headache, but it's the inhibitor chip, like like just like shorting out and trying to activate. And it all came to the head at this point when he's attacking his teammates and trying to kill them and Omega, but they managed to subdue him and remove the chip. So they're all free from the influence or potential influence of the chip. Then like Rex asked them to go like on other missions, trying to get this other clone who is defective. This what is his doggone name? Because to me, he's kind of like the freaking Deadpool of the Bad Batch almost, because he seems very like jokey of a person. Gregor. And I kind of getting ahead of myself because like there's other stuff that carried on, but yeah, there's a little arc where you're on Ryloth again, and you get a lot of time with Rylothians and the planet Ryloth and Clone Wars, and in this, and it's like I didn't speak on this when I was covering the 7 seasons of Clone Wars, but the Rylothians people, there's a lot of them in slavery. For more often than not, when you see like those people with the tails coming off their heads and stuff like that, like in Jabba's palace or bars or whatever like that, more often than not you see them in prostitution or stripping or just some kind of like bizarre entertainment. And it's like, why more often than not you see these particular alien races in these kind of like positions like this more often than not? And that is wild to me. Why is always them? You see that in like the Book of Boba Fett. Two of them were like, host and hostess in this bar, and like they half naked, and servicing people. And it's like, oh my god, what is with that? This is so bizarre. I always wondered that, like, why is these guys all? Why is this particular race? It's not all of them, but more often than not, you see them in these kind of things. So you get the return of this, like, the Ryloth senator who, like, has always seemed like just like a fat, slobby guy who, just doesn't seem like fit to rule any doggone thing except like a open bar of food. But and it's funny because you got this other guy who turns out to be the father of Hera, who you see a young Hera who will be like one of the main leads in Rebels. Her father being like like a Che Guevara kind of guy in the Clone Wars, now in a position of political power, who people listen to more so than their actual senator, and now it's kind of like he what's the word? It's kind of like he went native, not native, the opposite of going native. He's kind of like he got a blue collar job and he's not fighting for. He's not like he says he's fighting for the people, but he's like trying to like I'm gonna do it from the inside, and you see him just kind of like it's like he lost. I wouldn't say he lost his fighting spirit, but he's just trying to maneuver in another direction because it's like his people's always been in constant battle, and we're a peaceful people. We don't want to fight anymore, and I'm trying to make sure we secure some peace on our planet because we lost too many people. And this seemed like a safer route until he sees like because some of his people like see like the issue with the Empire as being like trying to militarize their planet because they're not leaving after the Clone Wars was over. And after finding out like hey, they're up to no good, and they taking like any kind of weapon away from the people, so there's no potential of them fighting back because they'll be essentially outgunned. And that's when Hera's uncle, who's still fighting the good fight, hires the Bad Batch, or at least hires Sid to get the Bad Batch to deliver weapons to him so they can secretly arm the people so they can have a fighting chance. But the uncle, the parents getting arrested, Hera escapes and contacts the Bad Batch because you get to see a moment with her and Omega a little bit, where it's like Omega, because Hera has like she loves flying, she wants to fly so badly and see like the stars and everything like that, which eventually she do. And it's a funny line from the father who mentions like he wants to bring peace because he doesn't want his daughter growing up in like the way he and his people growing up in like constant battle. He doesn't want that for his daughter, which is funny and ironic, where she ends up doing the exact same thing in a way. You see in Rebels, and if you look up on the Star Wars Wikipedia, she like becomes like a legend in her own right, as far as like fighting like the Empire and everything like that. But they there's been moments where they mentioned about Crimson Dawn, this kind of like terror set, or like some kind of like almost like Court of Owls, Hydra like type of group of people in the Star Wars universe. And like I've been reading like Vader comic books online, And it's like, currently right now there's an arc with that, with him dealing with that. And it's like, man, it's like, because the first time I think I heard the name Crimson Dawn in these TV shows, and in a couple of the movies, but the I think the comics is the one that kind of like hit it home in my brain, and it's almost like a nearly like a Mandela effect, where it's like I'm thinking like, oh, it got into the comic books first, not the shows or movies. But no, the shows and movies referencing Crimson Dawn, and it's kind of like in the comics they come like a staple. And I thought that was pretty neat. And so the Bad Batch, while at the same time dealing with Crosshairs, who is on their like tails trying to deal with them, you also meet this other trooper, Hauser, who was friends with like Hera's parents, who doesn't seem like he's being mind controlled, because he questions and he doesn't solely agree. But it's funny, like I was wondering like whatever happened to him, because I'm pretty sure he might have died. One second here. It's funny how Saw Gerrera is getting so much, because you think like, because in my recollection, you think like, we only saw him in Rogue One, and it's like this one-off kind of character, and then you see him like in the Jedi Fallen Order, and then of course he was in like the Clone Wars, but it's like, yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, House just got arrested, so he might have, well, not just might, we probably will see him in season 2 of the Bad Batch at some point, but it'd be great for him, because he seems like a great character, and I would love to see him, like, either help with like the rebellion, or because he seems like he's such like a honorable soldier, but he want to fight for a good cause and not just blindly follow orders for like a fascist government that's clearly doing wrong. And it'd be great that you see him defect and help with like the growth of the rebellion. But as a help trying to get Gregor out of like this Imperial prison, in their in the midst of doing that, Hunter decides to like stay behind just to give them a moment to escape. So he's sent off to Kamino, where they go back, rescue Hunter, but in the meanwhile dealing with Crosshairs. But this new admiral who's working under Grand Moff Tarkin, he orders the entire laboratory base of the Kaminoan people to be destroyed, because they want to make sure like we don't need any more clones, because he's like in charge of recruitment of just ordinary citizens, and he thinks like okay, clones are obsolete at this point. That's part of the old republic, and the republic is no longer a thing anymore, so we don't need these things too. That's we want to cut off completely of anything having to do with the republic, and that's including the clones. So destroy this entire base. And it's a shame, because like a lot of those, you got these baby, I want to say they're not even alive yet. It's debate whether or not you consider them alive or whatever, but it's like any DNA of Django or whatever, happen because don't even know what happened to like the clone kids. They might wherever that are left, they just okay. You're the last ones that are gonna be in like this, imperial things, but that is it. And so the base is completely destroyed, while the Bad Batch is and Omega is there, and you get to see Az again, who you see a little bit with that arc in Clone Wars when one of the uh, troopers, inhibitor chip malfunctioned too early, and it became a whole thing. You get to see Az again, and he helps out the Bad Batch escape to the surface while they all having their back and forth with Crosshairs. And Crosshairs ain't totally behind, like, he's not like the other clones where just like robotic following orders kind of, mindset. He still thinks on his own, but he believes what he's doing is what he needs to do as a good soldier. A perfect example of like a blindly following a directive that's clearly asinine. And a cool, idea where they, put themselves in these tubes and having Az, who can still function underwater, push the tubes to the surface, but he's on, backup power at this point. And, Omega jumps in after him and rescue him from the waters. So now, like, we got like a good droid on the Bad Batch team. I love Az, and I want to see more of Az in the next season. He seems like a good addition to the Bad Batch team. Probably help out Tech and Echo with like, all these other like either strategy or like, building a better ship or whatever. Probably like a bigger ship because like you need more room because, having like a small little cabin space for Omega, while nice, it's kind of cramped. You probably need like a bigger ship, at least, to a point where you can find like a spot to, because I want to see them finally find like a spot where they can, plant some roots, at least somewhat, instead of constantly being like on like travel constantly. But Crosshairs, because Omega saves Crosshairs from being crushed and drowned while they're trying to make their way out. So he figured like he saves her and Az from the waters, and it's like, this makes us even, kid. So she still considered Crosshairs her brother, and so he stays on the platform. Don't know, because they the Empire is raised like they don't really care. They'll take out Crosshair along with everybody else. They don't matter, and they point that out. They left you to die along with us. They don't care, but doesn't matter with him. But I think it kind of does matter. But I'm pretty sure, kind of like with Ventress, maybe next season Crosshair might just become like a bounty hunter or something like that, and just decide not to work for the Empire. Period. But it'll be like a interesting like arc he will be going on. But yeah, that's pretty much like the Bad Batch. It's like, days after the events of Order 66 was announced. Next, I'll be going to Star Wars, the Solo story. That one's a doozy, and it was the first time I actually seen that film. I never went to go to the theater to see it at all, and it's like, I think it's the first Star Wars movie in a long while that I haven't went to the theater to go see, because I did not think it'll be any good. Other people said it, was okay, and I'll give my thoughts when I do that video in like a few minutes. So let me know what you guys think of the Bad Batch season 1. I think it's pretty solid. It's really good. I think I expect them to step it up a little bit more in the next season, because it's like, road trip kind of, adventures, and, and doing all these little because I hope they don't continue on with working with Sid constantly just to earn some credits and doing all these little missions, which hopefully doesn't make it like almost every episode. At some point, you gotta like they figure like, okay, we earn enough money so we can like, go far away of avoid Empire's jurisdiction and try to like, you know, live out some kind of life, whatever kind of thing. But who knows? But what do y'all expect from season 2 of the Bad Batch? And do you guys have a favorite character? Because I love Omega, I love her to death. I also love Hunter. It's probably like my two favorite characters out of the entire show. And I think Gregor too. I kind of want to see Gregor again because he seems very funny. He's like kind of like a Deadpool kind of clone, and he's really funny. I really want to see him again. And of course Rex. But anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit as I go over Star Wars: The Solo Story, or Solo: The Star Wars Story. So, see you in a minute.